Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, November the 4th. Quite a wild week of weather across the nation with tropical activity, with a severe weather threat, and substantial snowfall for portions of the Rocky Mountain states, specifically Colorado to New Mexico. Those two states look like they'll get hard hit with accumulating snow during the second half of the week, some over the next couple of days, but a bigger threat exists for the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even into Saturday time period. We'll go over all of this over the next several minutes here. Starting off here with a look at the tropical scene right now. We do have two systems, one over the far eastern Atlantic right now. This is Tropical Storm Patty in a weakening phase, headed as a weakening system towards Portugal and Spain. But this is the area of concern for the U.S. mainland right here. This is currently labeled as tropical system number 18. It looks like it will develop into hurricane status over the next few days and generally move slowly, probably in a direction like this across western Cuba, then spill out over the Gulf of Mexico, and then probably up in this fashion, maybe the central part of the Gulf of Mexico. That is certainly not set in stone. It looks like it'll be a slow moving system, so that often allows for slightly different movements than what may appear to be the case right now. But we're talking mid to later this week, maybe even into the early part of the upcoming weekend right there across the central Gulf of Mexico. It should be a relatively small storm compared to some of the recent storms. And again, it'll be a very slow mover. Some of its moisture, I think, will make its way up to the north and east, at least into the southeastern part of the nation. Even a slight chance that some of that moisture ends up making it all the way into the Middle Atlantic region, which of course would be well appreciated because it's been very, very dry in the Middle Atlantic region. I believe Philadelphia, for example, is up to 35 or 36 days in a row without any measurable precipitation. But all of this activity here is kind of part of a transition expected here during the month of November. Again, tropical activity. At the same time, we're getting significant snowfall across the Rocky Mountain states and a severe weather outbreak later today and tonight. We'll talk about that next. Well, we had one severe weather outbreak last week in much the same area as is likely for later today into tonight, specifically Oklahoma, across to Missouri, and it could extend as far south, certainly, as central and eastern Texas, and as far north and east as Iowa and Illinois. This is the area of concern. Again, this is in the very near future here, later today into tonight. It includes the threat of tornadoes, and last week we focused in on the continuing influx of colder air masses from the north and west into the central part of the nation, and the influx of warm and humid air from the Gulf of Mexico out into the Mississippi Valley region. And this clash, which typically takes place in March, April, and May, can also take place in October and November. We talked about a secondary peak of the tornado season coming in the fall months of October and November. Certainly not quite as high of a peak as during the springtime, when probably 3/4 or so of the tornadoes occur March, April, and May, but much a similar pattern in the fall season as in the spring season, with the influx of cold air from the north and west, at the same time clashing with warm, humid air from the Gulf of Mexico. Only this time of the year, the influx of cold air is increasing in frequency, and those air masses coming out of the Gulf of Mexico north will be decreasing in intensity. But again, a clash right here later today and tonight with the threat of tornadoes. Again, all of this is supported in the upper part of the atmosphere. We'll talk about that next, in addition to the class of the temperatures in the central part of the nation. Well, not only do we have tropical activity and a severe weather threat here for later today and tonight, we have significant snow in the cards over the next 5 days or so. There's snow falling right now across some of the Rocky Mountain states, but a bigger threat from places like Colorado and New Mexico will take place later this week in that Wednesday, Thursday, maybe even Friday and Saturday time period. Right here you can see this is the total forecast map from the Zero Z GFS for snowfall over the next 5 days. It ends on Saturday morning, so between today and Saturday morning, again, some significant amounts possible in some of those higher elevations of Colorado and New Mexico. And you see even the northern Rocky Mountain states will get some decent snowfall over the next several days. Way up there in upstate Maine, maybe some snowfall as well, but a wintry week setting up here for places like Denver, all the way down to Albuquerque here, and especially in the second half of the week, there could be multiple storm systems having an impact on Colorado and New Mexico with snow, accumulating snow, perhaps significant accumulating snow in some of those higher elevation locations. Well, let's walk through some of the forecast maps from the Zero Z run of the GFS, and we talked about this upper level support contributing to the severe weather outbreak that is expected later today and tonight. We have this bowling ball in the upper part of the atmosphere, kind of a strong vorticity max. Those are areas of spin in the upper part of the atmosphere that importantly lead to upward motion down in the lower part of the atmosphere. This is as we begin the day here on Monday. We'll go out a little bit farther in time and all the way into the latter part of the evening. And with this vorticity maxima right here over the southwestern states, the Four Corners region, you have a lot of upward motion right ahead of it in this part of the nation. Again, from Texas all the way to Illinois, Iowa, down to Oklahoma and Kansas, you have this threat of severe weather, and that includes the threat of tornadoes. Again, a clash of air masses in terms of temperatures and a lot of support in the upper part of the atmosphere. That cold air moving in from the west and the warm, humid air pumping up from the Gulf of Mexico into the Mississippi Valley region. And watch out later today and tonight. And just want to move ahead here to see that kind of a second, kind of a repeating performance here later in the week. This is now out to Thursday. And this right here is a reflection of 500 millibars of what will likely become Tropical Storm Raphael, and then maybe a hurricane, perhaps as much as a Category 2 hurricane by the time all is said and done. I wanted to point this out because this next trough coming in to the Four Corners region later in the week on Thursday could end up pushing some of that moisture to the north and east, certainly into the southeastern states, but potentially into the Mid-Atlantic region. Let's move it a little bit farther ahead in time here. And again, you may have this interaction of this upper level trough here, and again, some possible severe weather here in the middle of the nation at the end of the work week here. That tropical system tends to slow down as it gets into the central and northern part of the Gulf of Mexico, and it may take this upper level trough to kind of push some of that moisture to the north and east. Some models have it never making it to the north and east. I think there's a decent chance that some of the moisture gets wrapped up ahead of this incoming upper level trough and again pushes into the southeastern states, and maybe ultimately some moisture can make its way into the Mid-Atlantic region. Here we are on Friday, and then going into the upcoming weekend. This system moves to the north and east, and again, there may be some tropical moisture out ahead of it in this area right here by the upcoming weekend. Well, let's take a look at the surface maps from the Zero Z run of the GFS. And again, a wild week of weather here. Right now we have some snow showing up on these maps in blue out in the Rocky Mountain states right now. We have this severe weather threat coming later today and tonight right in the heartland here. And again, see this isobar pattern here? Here's high pressure here over the northeastern part of the nation. Winds blow clockwise around high, so that is pumping up warm and humid air right to the Mississippi Valley region. At the same time, cold air is pouring to the south and east across the Rocky Mountain states, setting up for a severe weather outbreak later today and tonight. And again, that includes the threat of tornadoes. Some accumulating snow right now over those higher elevations of the Rocky Mountain states, specifically in this case Colorado and New Mexico. Let's kind of clear the deck here and move forward in time, and again we'll start to see that Caribbean Sea tropical system at the later on in the week here. Here we go with quite an area what looks like a squall line here in the overnight hours into early tomorrow morning. And again, the threat of tornadoes with this system here as it moves to the north and east. And here comes the next tropical storm. Again, probably crosses over western Cuba, becomes a named tropical system, Raphael, and then likely makes it to Category 1 and maybe Category 2 hurricane status somewhere over the central Gulf of Mexico. And here we go into the midweek. Notice cold enough for snow over the Rocky Mountain states. And this is when could even become a significant snowstorm in portions of Colorado, New Mexico. Multiple low-pressure areas can have an impact on those two states in that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday time frame here. Still too early for the details, but again, a significant snow accumulation is possible later this week out across Colorado and New Mexico. Then we move forward here. This system probably slides to the west of Florida, maybe let's say Apalachicola to New Orleans, somewhere in that area. Not set in stone by any means. Anytime a tropical system slows down, things can change. And it does look like it'll kind of be a slow mover at this particular time here. Notice the GFS just kind of moving it north and finally ends up not too far from New Orleans by the end of the work week here. This is now the Friday time frame. You're looking at here in the middle part of the nation. We have this clash of air masses. Again, maybe some strong to severe thunderstorms out ahead of that cold air mass and maybe some significant snow. Colorado down to New Mexico. Again, midweek into the early part of the weekend. Now, this is when there's a possibility that some of this moisture, this is some of that tropical moisture right here by the time we get into Saturday. This is that surface low associated with that strong vorticity max in the upper part of the atmosphere, an upper level trough. And that upper level trough could help to push this tropical moisture off in a northeast direction. By the way, the GFS is reflecting another tropical system here by the early part of the weekend. Whether or not that materializes, I do believe there may be one other system to be concerned about in about a week's time. Next week, not this one, but there may be another one that first forms down on the Caribbean Sea and may end up going over the Gulf of Mexico. Maybe that would be the last one of the season here. But again, this tropical moisture can make its way to the north and east if it gets pulled in by that upper level trough. Let's move it out a little bit farther in time. And here it is. Now it's starting to weaken, but nonetheless, there's a possibility that some moisture makes it into the mid-Atlantic region later on in the upcoming weekend. And certainly a place like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City could use some rain. And here it is. And again, some of this may be that tropical moisture left over from the remnants of what should become Raphael over the next few days. Here we go all the way out into next Monday morning. Some moisture moving into the northeastern part of the nation. Again, some of that tropical moisture in nature here. Another cold shot out across the interior western states that could produce snowfall a week from right now. This is the forecast map for next Monday, which will be all the way out to November 11th. So quite a wild week in weather across the nation with tropical activity getting started right now over the Caribbean Sea. It'll have an impact later this week in the Gulf of Mexico region. Severe weather outbreak later today and tonight into the overnight hours into early Tuesday across the heartland here. Watch out for the threat of tornadoes, places like northeastern Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, all the way up north and east to Iowa and Illinois. Some snow today over the Rocky Mountain states, but an even more significant snow event could take place in Colorado and New Mexico from the midweek all the way into the early part of the weekend. So again, a lot going on. Stay tuned to ArcfieldWeather.com. That's it for now. I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.